I am honored to have been asked to say a few words for Elizabeth Abimerchet. Elizabeth was a remarkable human being. There are very few human beings that have contributed more than she did to the development of human rights law, particularly in the Inter-American system of human rights. Her name is part of the rich contributions of the system for the weak and for the poor and for the dispossessed and for the people placed in positions of vulnerability. I think, for example, in the Morales case, that where women had to ask authorization to their husbands in order to work, or on the Aguastingui case, where the right of individual populations to the lands where they traditionally hunt and fish was recognized, or to the exposure of the killing of children in countries where the merchants will pay to children, to the police in order to get rid of the children that created problems for their business. And I can go on and on because Elizabeth was in charge of presenting cases on behalf of the Inter-American Commission to Inter-American Court. But that's not enough. It's also the contribution of Elizabeth to teaching. Hundreds, thousands of people in the Washington College of Law were exposed to her teaching and to her contributions in that realm, sharing their knowledge with people that also wanted to be part of this process of resorting to a law in order to promote important values of human dignity. In addition to all of this, or perhaps reflecting who she was, Elizabeth was an unbelievable person due to her generosity, her sensitivity, her ability to inspire others into action. She will continue to be an important role model for all of us. Thank you.
On September 26th, we lost one of the brightest, most original, and most generous international lawyers of our generation. Karen Knopp was Cecil Wright Chair at the University of Toronto School of Law. Her book, Diversity and Self-Determination in International Law, won the Certificate of Merit from this association in 2003, and in 2020, she delivered the Hague Lectures. Karen had a deep and broad global following, evidenced most recently by her honor as a fellow of the Helsinki Collegium for Advanced Studies and as an inaugural Max Planck Law Fellow. Karen Knopp was both one of the most important international lawyers of her generation and one of the most important feminist scholars of her generation. Her work spanned public international law, private international law, feminist theory, international law and domestic courts, international human rights law, international humanitarian law, foreign relations law, and many other areas. A fluent Russian speaker, she was also a sophisticated comparativist and had one of the most broad, sophisticated, and learned backgrounds in feminist and critical theory of any legal scholar of her generation. Karen's contributions as a scholar are inseparable from her spirit, curiosity, fun, and a deep appreciation for the asymmetrical beauty of law and of life. In her work, Karen uniquely brings together feminist commitments to gender justice with a critical perspective in a way that only she could, with an avant-garde, effortless elegance. A master of the remarkable in the mundane, she gave the everyday a sense of sparkle and excitement. Beyond the contributions of her own scholarship, Karen will be remembered for her radical collegiality, her devotion to her students, her commitment to her work as an editor of the Toronto Law Journal, her careful reading of her colleagues' papers and student theses, and her creative and empathetic engagement of others' work in her own, something that was critical to her own deep feminist commitments. And she'll also be remembered for something else, her vibrant, life-changing friendship and her unparalleled joie de vivre. Working with Karen as a co-author for 15 years was truly one of the greatest joys and the greatest gifts of my career. For me, as for so many others, her departure from this world, just as she was gaining the global recognition she so deserved as a senior leading light in our field, continues to be truly unfathomable. We miss her very, very much.
It is a privilege to honor the memory and legacy of my friend, mentor, and inspiration, Mario Lopez Garelli. Mario, a proud Paraguayan lawyer, dedicated nearly 3 decades to international public service as staff attorney at the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. During those years, Mario contributed to further advancing international human rights law and modernizing and streamlining the Inter-American Commission's procedures. But Mario's most profound imprint is his significant influence on new generations of Inter-American lawyers. Mario has been a larger-than-life figure in the legal careers of hundreds of interns, fellows, and young colleagues at the OAS headquarters and throughout the Americas. Those of us who once arrived in Washington, D.C., terrified by the unfamiliar working environment, overwhelmed by moving to a new city, or panic-stricken by the responsibilities of a demanding job, always found in Mario a fraternal, warm, and unconditional friend. With his generosity and kindness, he lifted all of us on a personal and professional level. Gracias, tío Mario.